Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we have the new Haute42-COSMOX Gaming Hot Pad M Ultra Gen 2. So when we look at the front and back, we have our branding on the front and our controller on the back. We'll slide the cover off. So let's open this up and see what we got. We have our braided USB-C to USB cable. We have our two extra shadow hunting low profile switches. We have our metal switch puller. And let's take our controller out of here. We have our instruction manual, keycap remover. And that's it. Let's get this out the way. And here we have the M Ultra Gen 2. So when we go across this pad, we have all small buttons across the body with one large here on the bottom. We have an extra large screen here on the top left. We have our lights on and off and our tournament on and off switch here on the top left with our home row across the top right. We have button labeling across all the buttons with our designs here on the top and our design here on the bottom with a sloped off edge here on the bottom. When we go across the body, we have our sloped edge with nothing on the bottom. We have our pass-through port on the right, our locking power port on the top, and our extra power port on the left. When we go across the bottom, we have our grip tape pre-installed, and we have our lock port here for your USB-C port. You pull down to unlock, and you push the lock. And next we have the paper test. What's the paper test? We take a standard piece of 8.5 by 11 printer paper, and when I turn this sideways and put it underneath this pad, you can see this pad is shorter by one adapter, wider by one adapter, and roughly the height off the ground of one adapter. So if you're at home and wondering what this pad will feel like in person, take a piece of paper, turn it sideways, and play just like this on your desk or your lap, and that'll give you a good feel what this will feel like in person. So what's it like living with this controller? Playing with this controller feels a lot like the C. You have your ring lights going around each button, so it's nice and bright and shiny. You can turn the brightness up, down, or off, it's up to you. But the way the spacing is, and again, the way it feels on the base, it feels just like when you're playing on top of the C. The metal top feels very much like the M Ultra. You have that nice metal feel, the large footprint and base going around the whole pad, the lights on your buttons and along the base, and your slope down here in the bottom. And those coming from the R that love the left pinky, now you have a metal version of the R, but you do have to be aware that these have rings and this does not. These switches feel just like the C as far as height and just like the M Ultra Gen 1 as far as height. When you're playing on the 2, the switches on this pad do feel similar to this, but the way these hit the bottom and snap back, it feels just like the C, but this has the wind engine and this has the shadow hunting. So when it comes to feel, these three, when you're pressing the buttons, feel the most alike. These two feel the most alike. And with this being acrylic top and bottom, this has its own feel, just like all the other acrylic pads. When it comes to spacing, these two have the exact same spacing as this falls into the C family, with your up button and your bottom row being slightly higher, just like you would find on the R now, and on the M Ultra Gen 1. So if you have the R now, but you want a low profile, more standard feel switch, you will get the M Ultra Gen 2. If you have the C, but you want the left pinky button, you will get the M Ultra Gen 2. If you have the Gen 1 now, whereas the T is too wide, the C is just barely wider because you're adding rings around each keycap. This has the tightest spacing, just like the S. If you need a little bit more spacing, the C and the Gen 2 have ring lights going around each keycap. So it spaces out the switches just a little bit to give you more room. So if you have the C and it's too wide, you would get the M Ultra Gen 1. If you have the C and it feels just right, you would get the Gen 2. If you have the Gen 1 now and you want a little bit more space, you would get the Gen 2. And if you have the Gen 2 and you want it tighter, you would get the Gen 1. And if you know you like to play with rings, you would get the R. So when it comes to switch upgrades on this pad, I didn't need to do much. This comes with the shadow hunting pre-installed. They are a short travel Kailh low profile switch. I like that switch, especially on a metal pad, so I left those stock switches on here. And given this pad has a metal base, any switches you upgrade to are gonna feel really nice, smooth, and snappy on this pad. So this pad also comes with the easy keycap and switch removal tool. These are low profile switches out the box, so it is hard to get down in there. So you'll take the thin side, just wedge it right in the top, and lift. And your switch and keycap will come right out. Line your pins back up, and it snaps right in. So this pad has custom button lights and custom lighting going around the base. The firmware that ships on this pad is a custom version of 0710, and you can easily upgrade this pad to the latest firmware. Just download the Haute42 M Ultra firmware version and you'll be all set. So what's it like playing with this controller? So playing with this pad, with this metal base, these switches feel really snappy and smooth. This is a metal base. These switches are low profile, so they can be a little loud to some people. If you do want to quiet these down, you can add the deep sea Islets or the Lofree Ghost, and that'll give you the same smooth feel if you want a quieter pad, if you want your pad not so loud. So how do you connect to your console? You'll take your power cord, connect to your controller, connect to your adapter to the end of the cord, connect the adapter to your console, set your controller to X input mode. On your controller, press home, press start, and you're all set. And if your controller has a pass-through port, you'll take your power, connect to the controller, you'll take your booter device, connect to the pass-through port, make sure your pad is in PlayStation or Xbox mode, grab your power cord, connect to your console, press home, press start, and you're all set. For Xbox, you have the Brooks XB3, you have the Mayflash Magic X, and you have the Mayflash Magic Boot for Xbox. For PS5, you have the Brooks Wingman FGC, you have the Mayflash Magic S Ultimate, you have the AllFightSticks.com booter, you have the Mayflash Magic Boot, and you have the COSMOX Gaming Haute42 Booter 5, and you have the Brooks Wingman FGC2. This adapter will not work in the pass-through port at the time of this recording. You will have to plug this at the end of your cord, but this is your option for PS5 only games. And if you see the Magic Boot S5 online, at the time of this recording, this adapter is not compatible with this controller. You will want to pick up the original Magic Boot. So let's get some things on the table and compare. So when we compare the M Ultra Gen 1 to the M Ultra Gen 2, when we look at these pads side by side, we can see they are both the exact same height, they are the exact same width, and essentially the same height off the ground. We can see they both have the same small keycaps going across the body, with one large here in the bottom. This pad having 2 buttons here on the top and 2 on the bottom. This one having 1 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and your left pinky here on the side. This pad having your tighter spacing, with this pad having a little bit more spacing because there are light rings going around each switch on this pad. When we go across the top of the pads, your lights and your lock switch are here on the top for the Gen 1 and both are on the top left for your Gen 2. This pad having your standard size screen and this pad having your extra large screen. They both have their home row across the top, with this one being spaced out more, and they are different buttons that you click. They both have 2 power ports, one on the top and one on the left-hand side. The pass-through port is here on this pad, and the pass-through port is on the right on this pad. They both slope down on the bottom, with this pad having more a smooth slope down, kind of like the C, whereas this pad is a sharp slope down, more like the M+. With those being interested in the Gen 1, you're really looking at an S with a full body layout. And those looking at the Gen 2, you're looking more for a metal R, with both pads having the same spacing and layout as the S and the R, with your bottom 2 buttons being different, with the S being higher and the R being higher. So if you're torn between these 2 pads, your first thought is, do I want the left pinky or not? If you want the left pinky, you would get the Gen 2. If that is not an issue, your next question is, what makes them different? It's the spacing. They both feel very, very similar, but this pad here, the M Ultra Gen 1, is slightly tighter simply because there are no rings going around each keycap, so the spacing is tighter. They both have the same general feel on the bottom, but that's how you would compare the 2. So if you like tighter spacing, you would get the Gen 1. If you like slightly wider spacing, you would get the Gen 2. Here we have the M Ultra Gen 2 and the R16. When we look at these 2 side by side, you can see the M Ultra Gen 2 is barely taller by about roughly half the metal head and adapter. And when I put them back to back, this pad is roughly half the metal head of an adapter wider than the R16. When you compare these 2 side by side, they both have small buttons going across the body, with one large here in the bottom, this having your 23mm keycaps, this having your 20mm keycaps, but the rings make it feel like a 23. When you go across the top, you have your standard row here across the top, with your function button here on the side. On this pad, you have your menu row across the top, with your locks and your light switch here on the side. This pad has your standard size screen, with this pad having your extra large screen. The R has 1 power port on the top. The Gen 2 has 1 on the top and 1 on the left-hand side, and they both have their pass-through ports right here on the side. The R is your acrylic pad, has acrylic on the top and the bottom, with a matte finish top with this black edition, and the standard edition is your clear acrylic where you can add your artwork and make it look and feel how you would like it to feel. It does not slope off on the bottom, it is flat all the way around. The M Ultra Gen 2 is all metal, it has the flat edges with a slope down here on the bottom. So if you're comparing these 2 pads, the first thing you're really going to compare is the layout of the switches. So the R does have your rings. The rings themselves are roughly 2/4 off the base, and the switches are roughly 2 more quarters off of that. So you're looking at roughly 3.5 to 4/4 off the base. When it comes to the M Ultra Gen 2, these switches come with the low profile switches, so they are roughly 1 to 1.5 quarters off the base. So if you're comparing these two pads, the first thing you want to ask is, do you want rings or do you not want rings? The next question would be, do you want to change your artwork? Then you would get the acrylic R. With the metal giving you more of a louder sound because it does come with the shadow hunting switches, so you will want to change these out if you want a quieter sound. The acrylic pads are quieter, and when you add silent or ghost switches, they're even quieter. This pad has 1 power port, this pad has 2. The first thing to break on any pad is your USB-C port, so you have a backup on this pad. And those that have the R now, but want a more premium feel and don't mind the switches being lower without the rings, you will get the M Ultra Gen 2. But if you like the rings, this is not the pad you'll want to switch to, as it does not have the rings and it has a standard feel across the whole body. And that's how you would compare the M Ultra Gen 2 to the R16. Here we have the M Ultra Gen 2 and the Mavercade S3. And when you compare them side by side, you can see the Mavercade is shorter by roughly half the head of a metal adapter. And when I put them back to back, they are essentially the same width. And they are essentially both the same height off the ground. When you look at these two pads, they both have a left pinky on the side. This pad has a split down the middle with 2 up buttons and an up button here on the top, with this pad having a single here on the bottom, this being your 25mm, this being your 28mm. Across the pad, you have 23mm keycaps, and here you have your 23mm keycaps as well. They both have their menu row across the top, with this pad having a lights and lock switch here on the top, and this pad having it right here across the top to turn this button on and off, and enable and disable your tournament mode. They both have an extra large display. The Mavercade having the power port and USB pass-through port here on the top, with the M Ultra Gen 2 having 2 power ports and the pass-through port here on the side. So if you're comparing these two pads, the first question is, do I want a split layout down the middle with 2 up buttons, or do I want a single standard layout? Do I want all metal top and bottom, or do I want a metal base with an acrylic sandwich top? Here you would need a vinyl wrap to add artwork. This pad here, you can take the top off and drop in any custom artwork you like. This pad's having the cutouts across the top where you can add a loop or a hook or a strap, and it comes with this Velcro to manage your cable. And that's how you would compare the two. So that's the M Ultra Gen 2. If you've been looking for a metal version of the R, you found it. If you've been looking for an R with no rings, you found it. If you like the M Ultra Gen 1 now, but you've always wanted a left pinky, you found it on this pad. If you have the C, but you want a slightly taller bottom here and a left pinky and an all metal top and bottom, you found it in this pad as well. This pad is a nice blend of all 3 of these pads into one controller. You have your buttons across the top just like the C, your 2 buttons on the top just like the C and the M Ultra, your left pinky just like the R, your ring lights just like the C, and your slope down the bottom just like the C. With your locking USB-C port to protect your cable, the metal top just like your M Ultra, and the extra large screen is a nice new feature on this pad. This pad comes in 2 colors, the black and the blue, and I think it's a really nice addition to the lineup. Thanks for watching. Bye.